Hi everyone. I've just finished Someone to Hold by Mary Balogh. This is book 2 in the Westcott series. This one hit close to home, personally, as it expanded on orphan and parent-child themes, but I suppose it could hit home for almost everyone, really. The story moved at a better pace, in my opinion, on the second book than it did on the first one of the series, and the way Mary connected them both was actually rather brilliantly done. I will do some discussion on a few ideas that I found interesting, but just be aware that there may be some spoilers. The story picks up right after the first book ends. Anna's half-sister, Camille, moves to Bath, the town where Anna grew up. In an effort to reinvent herself, she becomes a teacher on the same orphanage where Anna lived and even moves in there. While living and working there, she meets Joel, an art teacher, former resident of the orphanage and Anna's best friend. They, Camille and Joel, fall in love, and by the end of the story they are married. Their interaction is very enjoyable. Joel is a painter, and so he's commissioned by several people in town to make portraits of them because of how good of a job he does at capturing people's essence. As it happens, Camille's mother commissions a portrait of her daughters, and this incentivizes Joel to get to know Camille and see her essence. This idea of seeing someone else's essence made me think of the role some people may have in our lives as mirrors of sorts, reflecting back to us things we may not see or wish not to see. It also made me consider this idea of networking with such individuals, a network of mirrors, if you will. We have personas that we put up in different situations, but our essence is sometimes, if not almost always, only visible to someone else. This was beautifully explored as Joel explains throughout his process of painting a portrait, how he not only needs to see the person but interact with her, talk to her, and actually see her in order to be able to capture as much as possible in a single instant to be immortalized. He starts to see Camille from their first few interactions, needing to revise a few assumptions he had made about her, despite her conscious efforts at not allowing herself to be seen by him. It made me think of this notion of how we're perceived by others, and not the vain, I wonder if they see me as I want to be seen, but rather, I wonder if I am seen as who I think I am. I think there is a difference. It's not the image you cultivate that most would simply accept, and most would probably never dig deeper in order to uncover the dynamics that govern it. But if someone really knew me, what would they see? It's a terrifying thought, and it's an idea that is explored in their story. Camille grew up to be an aristocratic lady, so she was perfectly trained to have the right personality in every situation. Once her world came crashing down after Anna ended up inheriting everything and leaving Camille with nothing, she went through a process of disintegration that she ultimately comes out on top of. But as she let down her guards and realized that most of who she was simply the result of her being trained to respond properly to every situation, she found herself not knowing who she was. She had been pushing away love and emotions, seeking a perfect husband and completely ignoring herself. But once her conditions changed, there was something there that she didn't recognize, and she had to learn to integrate it successfully, albeit painfully. It was her essence. The theme of love is explored in this story, obviously, but there was an interesting idea. In order to love, you also must allow yourself to be loved, that is, to be seen. It's not a one-way street. It made me think of something I read once that went, if you're experiencing a blockage of a particular type in your life, try giving that to the universe, or something along the lines. And it makes sense. Joel himself goes through a similar disintegration process in his life, though not as drastic nor is it as explored. But I think this was done on purpose, as he was more aware of who he actually was, and once his life changed, after a long-lost great-uncle leaves everything to him, he needed to add that to the core of his being and grow from that foundation. As I mentioned before, this is one of those stories that could hit home for most people. It certainly did for me. Themes of anger and frustration at one's parents and life, sadness, jealousy, and the inevitable fragile independence that one learns to develop when growing up alone is all one has, the pride and the walls one builds to never ever let anyone see the ashamed kid are all explored very gently. Tied, but not explored, or the clingy outpouring of oneself into whoever holds a promise to fulfill the role of someone to hold you and love you, someone that you can hold and love, and the very predictable self-fulfilling prophecies when this backfires, the inability to ask for help, the fear of disappointing others, and the very paradoxical fear of being left alone, yet the familiarity that makes one seek loneliness and self-reliance. And those are all behaviors that, in terms of the story, could be seen by a painter seeking to capture your essence by interacting with you, which is most probably not what you would be attempting to convey, interestingly. Being so preoccupied with how the world perceives you from a young age sacrifices you, and thus your ability to allow yourself to be loved. And it's a sad thought, but I think it's true. And sadly, it's something that self-perpetuates because we all have the tendency to see life from the point of view of what validates our pre-existing notions of who we are and what the world is. And sometimes we miss opportunities to shine, if you will, on purpose, just so that we can remain where we are. Thus, the need of a network and a mirror, going back to these concepts, a loving mirror. And perhaps that is a good way to condense the story in one phrase. Joel was a loving mirror to Camille. Not one that simply accepts you as who you think you currently are, but one that at least reflects back onto you who you actually are, encouraging you to choose daily. I know it might seem gloomy, however, I think the path towards true transformation and healing some of these wounds which have been with us for a long time and may have been controlling our destiny begins with seeing ourselves clearly, and that is not possible without a person or a group of persons who want the best for us and are courageous enough to reflect back to us both the brilliant and the rotten aspects of ourselves, and care enough about us to allow us to freely choose the person we wish to become. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this second video on my channel. If you did like it, then please click like, hit subscribe, and share it with your friends. Thank you very much. I'll see you guys next time.